This is the home improvement superstore in Kharkiv, where 2 glide bombs exploded on Saturday, May 25th, as over 200 people were shopping. At least 18 people were killed. It is only the latest use of glide bombs in Russia's war on Ukraine. The weapons leave an impact crater nearly the size of a tennis court. They have contributed to Russia's recent advances on the battlefields in eastern Ukraine and have terrorized civilians in the Sumy and Kharkiv regions. These charred remains are a sadly familiar sight. But the increasing use of these bombs reveals a potential new chapter in Russia's war on Ukraine.
There's no operational or tactical advantage that provides. All it does is degrade Ukraine's general infrastructure, quality of life, morale, so on and so forth. And destroying a hardware store full of civilians is simply terror.
And before we go further, please consider liking or subscribing to help support independent journalism from Ukraine. This is a Russian glide bomb mounted to an Su-34 aircraft.
From the get-go, we understand that it's relatively inexpensive and relatively simple relative to other technologies on the battlefield today. So you're taking a legacy dumb bomb, in this case a Fab 500, and you're adding a glide kit, which consists of a wing set. I've seen pictures of it being dropped when it pops out upon release from the aircraft, and then a GPS guidance system. But this allows you to take a bomb that would have low accuracy and make it very accurate. And it's got significant firepower, right? Traditionally, we call it dumb bomb, meaning it's just a big piece of metal with some explosives inside, and it takes advantage of a munition that the Russians have.
While Russian ballistic missiles can strike anywhere within Ukraine, glide bombs are more limited in range. They rely on GPS to strike targets within a 60-kilometer range.
That's why they're being used, near the front lines and not in Kyiv or Lviv, where we do see strikes from these more sophisticated weapons.
This superstore was only 28 kilometers or 17 miles from the Russian border, well within the range of Russia's glide bombs. The bombs also come in many sizes, from 500 kilograms to 1.5 tons.
500 is the smallest version, basically. So you can imagine 3 times that size, 1,500. That is a significant amount of firepower to bring to bear on a fixed target.
Ballistic missiles, like Russia's Iskander, are unguided missiles and follow a calculated trajectory.
How they're launched at the beginning is going to dictate where they land. It goes up and then it comes down. Cruise missiles can go straight. Think of it more like a jet almost, controlling itself with micro degrees of steering adjustment.
Despite the rudimentary nature of glide bombs, they are difficult for Ukraine to stop. They can be launched from within Russia's airspace and accurately strike a fixed target before Ukraine's air defenses can respond.
Ballistic missiles have predictable trajectories. They also have motors, right? All these missiles have motors, and that gives off a heat signature. Even though they're very fast, they have longer times of flight right? So the ability of the air defense systems to identify and track those targets is significantly greater than for these glide bombs, which don't have motors, have a very short time of flight, and are largely on a downward trajectory because they're air-launched.
The glide bombs have minimal steering ability, but because it is difficult to shoot them down, it can reach its intended target with high accuracy.
Would expect that it would hit within 100 meters of where they intended to. If it's not jammed, if it's working properly, which for a 500 kilogram bomb, that's pretty accurate. But again, it's got to be against a fixed point that you've identified ahead of time. So what's its use? Are you going to be able to hit a moving convoy? No. Are you going to be able to use it to attack a mobile reserve that's being moved to a position to defend against an attack? No. But you can certainly take out a civilian structure like a hardware store. Easy to hit, easy to destroy. You got to ask, what are you trying to achieve with this? Is it mass destruction? If you desire so, and it seems like the Russians do, well, certainly you're going to accomplish that as well.
Each Iskander ballistic missile costs Russia an estimated $3 million. A Caliber cruise missile costs an estimated $6.5 million. The cost of each Kinjal, which Russia calls a hypersonic missile, is estimated at an astounding $15 million. Back on February the 7th, a massive aerial attack that included 3 Caliber missiles and 3 Iskander missiles cost Russia an estimated $423.4 million.
But it's not a sustainable, sensible way to fight a war. Russian defense establishment, whether it be the Soviets, World War II, or even the Soviets in Afghanistan, has always demonstrated an ability to adapt and learn and improve. And that's what these glide bombs represent.
Those more advanced missiles are also slower to produce due to their complex electronics, whereas Russia currently has massive stockpiles of these Soviet-era bombs ready to retrofit to the gliders.
And with respect to the defense economics, if you will, any opportunity to use existing systems in an effective way is very appealing. It's very cost effective. We don't need to think about how much money they're spending on these things because they could sustain this expenditure, sort of in perpetuity.
The expanded use of cheap glide bombs follows another development within Russia. President Vladimir Putin made the unexpected decision to replace his defense minister, Sergei Shoigu, with Andrei Belousov, an economist with no military experience.
I would look at it this way. The Russians have always over-militarized their economy. They're well aware of the economic impact of that and seemingly willing to pay that price.
Part of the reason these glide bombs have been effective goes beyond just the weapons themselves. President Zelensky said that Russia has used 3,200 glide bombs in May alone, and Ukraine has been left in a difficult position to respond.
В цьому місці 3200. Просто на голову людям прилітають тисячі авіабомб. Ніхто з будь-якою зброєю в руках, з будь-якою підготовкою людина, який би у нього захист не був, неспроможні люди витримати. Не витримують люди.
Until recently, the United States and other allies prohibited Western-provided weapons from striking Russia on its own territory. This allowed Russian aircraft to safely deploy the bombs up to the edge of their border, while Ukraine must merely watch and wait.
If you've never been underneath a threat of air and artillery attack, it's hard to grasp just how sort of crushing it is to everything that you do.
And on Thursday, May 30th, Politico reported the US President Joe Biden discreetly authorized the defensive use of American-supplied weapons inside Russian territory, but only along the Kharkiv border. Despite the shift in policy pertaining to the Kharkiv region, it may only be a matter of time before Russia pivots to glide bomb attacks on other neighboring regions, such as Sumy or Chernihiv.
It's unrealistic to think that Ukraine could defend itself effectively, so at least one hand tied behind his back. Change in policy does. It moves the front line from the border back into Russia, where they cannot expect to operate freely without fear of attack. And that's a significant advance, if you will, for the Ukrainians.
Ukraine has announced this week the development of its own glide bombs. As always, things are happening every day in Ukraine, and the best way to be part of the news is by becoming a member of the Kyiv Independent by going to kyivindependent.com/membership.